Good morning. Well, I'm David Lee, Chair of the Caltech Board of Trustees, and thank you all for coming this morning to share with us the wonderful and exciting news about the new president. Earlier this morning, the Board of Trustees met and unanimously approved the appointment of Dr. Tom Rosenbaum as Caltech's 9th president. And also he is going to be joining the PMA as the Bill Davidoff Presidential Chair Professor of the PMA as a faculty member. Okay. As you all know, we kicked off the presidential search process back in the February timeframe. At that point, the Board of Trustees appointed the Trustee Selection Committee, and at the same time, we asked the faculty to form a Faculty Selection Committee, and many of the members of the Faculty Search Committee are here present today. During the initial phase, the Board of Trustees members and the faculty members worked very closely together to really come to terms and agreement on the visions for Caltech and also the key selection criteria that we will have for the new president for us that will serve us well. And during that process, I understand that the faculty committee members also had town hall meetings with all of you to get your inputs and your thoughts and suggestions. And all these were taken into account as we finalize the final selection criteria. Once we reach the total agreement, and we are very comfortable with that, then the faculty search committee members sprang into action. They reached out to the leaders of the renowned educational institutions around the world to talk to them about Caltech, to get their views on Caltech, and to also perhaps ask them for the type of people that they believe will be good presidents for Caltech. And also, if they have any suggestions, we'll take them, all right? And then also at the same time, we got suggestions from our friends, our colleagues from all over to consider as the next president. Through it all, the Faculty Search Committee got a very large number of names to work with, and they then narrowed that down to a list of potential candidates, which we then reviewed together. And they then started the actual interviewing process, which resulted in the list of finalists that they presented to the Board of Trustees, not the board, the trustee committee members a couple months ago, and they endorsed them unanimously with great enthusiasm. The trustees then went through their interviews, and then the trustee committee then today, this morning, recommended to the board our finalist candidate, and the board unanimously approved the selection of Tom as our next president. So we're all very happy that the long search process is over. Officially, Tom will join us July 1, on or about July 1. We hope you'll be sooner, but on or about July 1. In the meantime, from time to time, I hope you'll see Tom here on campus to really kind of get involved with some of the key activities at Caltech, and so that he can hit the ground running, literally, okay, come July 1, okay? So we're all very excited, and we hope that you can join me in welcoming him. Now, before we do that, I would be remiss if I did not single out all the faculty search committee members, those that are part of the, would you just stand up and let's give them a round of applause for all their work. Believe me, they did a lot of heavy lifting. They made personal sacrifices. They only took 1 week of vacation, same week in the month of August, just so that they can coordinate with each other and gather interviews and all the visits out of the way. But we're all glad that it's over, okay? The trustees also, I think you probably know some of them. They also took on this assignment with great care and great feeling of responsibility, because we think this is the most important assignment that we have, at least for this year, or for the next 10 years, at least, okay? And so we took it, with a great deal of responsibility, and I think all my fellow trustees have devoted themselves to the process and generously made available their own time, and also apply their thinking and their deliberation and help us sort out all the choices. And I think in the end, we are all very happy that we made the right choice in Tom. So we are so excited that Tom agreed to accept our offer to come. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Fiona to introduce our next president.
So good morning, everyone. I want to begin by also expressing my sincere thanks to the faculty committee. And I won't read the names, but they have shown real dedication, wisdom, and a great sense of humor throughout what has been a very interesting, rewarding, and sometimes stressful process. So we spent every Friday afternoon together for about 8 months. And I'm really going to miss you guys, but my research group is really happy to have our Friday afternoon after lunches back. And I also do want to extend my gratitude to David and the trustee committee members who've been real partners throughout this whole process. We've learned a tremendous amount from each other. Our informal and formal interactions have been very productive and constructive. And so I thank them. But foremost, I want to thank the entire Caltech community, the students, staff, alumni, and faculty. You took significant time and effort to provide us with your thoughts in many ways. Through the website, I still occasionally get inputs that way, by meeting with us in town halls, individually, and the faculty took it as our charge to reflect the advice, aspirations, and concerns of the community in making our recommendation to the Board of Trustees. Your commitment to the Institute was really inspiring to us, and we reflected deeply upon and incorporated the advice that you gave us. And so, as a culmination of this process, it is my very great pleasure to introduce to you Thomas F. Rosenbaum, the John T. Wilson Distinguished Service Professor of Physics, the James Franck Institute and the College, and the Provost of the University of Chicago. As Caltech's president-elect. Professor Rosenbaum is a distinguished condensed matter physicist whose research focuses on the nature of matter at the very lowest temperatures achievable in theory, near what scientists call absolute zero. So at these temperatures, our understanding of matter based on everyday classical theory falls apart. Rather, we need the unintuitive world of quantum physics to understand reality. So quantum theory predicts that matter can exhibit amazing behavior at these temperatures, including superconductivity and strange transitions between its conductive properties. Professor Rosenbaum's research over the last 25 years has focused on characterizing these states of matter experimentally, and these experiments have helped establish a theoretical underpinning that parallels what we've had in the classical regime for a century. President-elect Rosenbaum has received numerous awards and substantial professional recognition for his scholarship, and I'm not going to recount that to you today. Instead, I want to describe some of the reasons we concluded that he will be a really great leader for Caltech. Through our discussions with President-elect Rosenbaum and many people who have known and worked with him over his career, we came to appreciate that he understands at a very deep level the commitment to fundamental inquiry that is so central to Caltech's culture. Both Chicago and Caltech have a strong ethos. At Chicago, they call it the life of the mind. At Caltech, we have a strong commitment to basic scholarship and to rigorous education, to fundamental inquiry. Dr. Rosenbaum truly appreciates the importance of a distinctive institutional culture, and we know he will foster the sort of environment and values that have enabled Caltech to have influence disproportionate to its size. And I will say, a colleague of mine at Chicago said that neither Caltech nor Chicago are vanilla places. I asked him what vanilla places were. He said, you know, Stanford and Princeton. So Dr. Rosenbaum is also an innovator. He has launched bold scholarly initiatives at Chicago. He's an ambitious leader in the best sense of the word, but one who understands that any sustainable vision must be rooted in and aligned with the institution's priorities. As an example of such an initiative, I'll give you the Institute for Molecular Engineering, established in 2011 through the efforts of Professor Rosenbaum and the president, Robert Zimmer. So believe it or not, seems strange to us at Caltech, but Chicago didn't have any engineering at all until this time. In fact, we were told that it was widely viewed as, I quote, something that plumbers do. But Dr. Rosenbaum had the vision to realize that fundamental sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, would suffer decades from now without engineering in an era where the distinction between basic and applied research is no longer relevant in many disciplines. The Institute is now thriving due in no small part to the efforts of Provost Rosenbaum. Dr. Rosenbaum also worked long and hard to make his university a good neighbor to its surrounding community. He was instrumental in establishing collaborative educational programs serving communities around Chicago's Hyde Park campus. The development of a 4-campus charter school near the university was originally designed to further fundamental research and education, but it has also achieved extraordinary college placement results for disadvantaged Chicago youths. The faculty committee had lengthy discussions with Dr. Rosenbaum about future intellectual directions in a variety of areas. We were very impressed by his breadth. He shared with us detailed ideas that ranged across information technology, social science, biology, astrophysics, and other areas. This breadth stems in large part from his responsibility at Chicago for a very broad range of intellectual endeavors, but it's also part of his personality, and we got a real sense of this level of intellectual curiosity when we learned that during his 1-year internal sabbatical at Chicago, he spent time auditing humanities courses. We wanted to make sure our new president would devote time and energy to Caltech's educational mission. President-elect Rosenbaum is deeply committed to undergraduate and graduate education as a successful mentor, teacher, and an administrator who has been a strong supporter of creative new efforts to enrich student life at Chicago. We also paid close attention to the management skills of the candidates and the kind of relationship they have with their staffs. In Dr. Rosenbaum's case, we were told that his staff adores him. Another special and unusual quality of Dr. Rosenbaum is that he really understands the relationship between JPL and Caltech, because he was steward of a similar relationship between the University of Chicago and Argonne National Laboratory. In that role, he represented the lab's interests in Washington and with the Department of Energy. He also had worked hard to strengthen intellectual connections between Argonne and the university. And again, the Institute for Molecular Engineering is a good example of this because it includes faculty who have joint appointments with Chicago and Argonne, like we have joint appointments here between Caltech and JPL. I'm also extremely delighted to be welcoming to the Caltech community Dr. Rosenbaum's wife, Catherine T. Faber, an eminent and distinguished scholar in her own right. Professor Faber is the Walter P. Murphy Professor of Materials Science and Engineering at Northwestern. Her research focuses on understanding stress and fractures in ceramics, and also she's working on fabricating ceramics with controlled porosity, which are important as thermal barrier coatings and films. Again, I won't recite Professor Faber's resume, except to note that next week, Dr. Faber and Rosenbaum will be headed to Montreal, where Professor Faber will be inducted as a distinguished member of the American Ceramic Society. So please join me in congratulating Dr. Faber on that. Professor Faber is also co-director of Northwestern University Art Institute of Chicago Center for Scientific Studies in the Arts. This is a center that employs advanced materials science techniques to art history and restoration, and I suggest you go look at the webpage. You can learn a lot. It's fascinating. If I give up physics, I may think about So Professor Faber will be joining Caltech as an endowed professor of materials science and applied physics. Professors Rosenbaum and Faber are also in a great position to appreciate the challenges to undergraduates at schools with a rigorous core curriculum, as they have two sons who have experienced Chicago's core. First Daniel, who graduated from the university in 2012, and Michael, who's currently a junior there. So I'd like you to please join me in giving a warm welcome to President-elect Rosenbaum and Professor Kathy Faber.
Well, thank you, first of all, David and the board, and Fiona for your generous remarks, and the search committee for all the hard work, and Interim President Stolper for your continued commitment to the Institute. It's really a great pleasure and honor to join your community. There's a story, a true story, that's told about the novelist E.L. Doctorow, who was asked by his daughter Carolyn, who was in the second grade, to write a note excusing her absence from school for the previous day. So he sat down and he starts writing. He says, my daughter Carolyn. And he says, now he crumples it up, no good. Of course she's my daughter Carolyn. Who else would be writing this? So he starts again, please excuse Carolyn Doctorow. And he stops and says, no, why should she be excused? She didn't commit a crime, she just has a cold. He throws out. So this goes on for quite a bit of time with the pile of papers growing up near the wastepaper basket. Finally, his wife, Helen, can't take it anymore. She comes in, pens the perfect note, and sends Carolyn off to school. And Doctorow concludes, writing is very difficult, especially in the short form. So, we have, I think, as a community, this challenge of thinking long-term, of thinking of the long form, of thinking of the things that make Caltech great, the incredible accomplishments and contributions to humanity that inspire and attract great people to this institution, faculty, students, staff alike. We also actually have to get things done. And I know that there are a lot of you in this audience who are the people that actually make sure that things get done. And I am most grateful for that. I am excited about seeing how we can both set the agenda intellectually, create community that continues to attract the best people, but also count on you to implement, to guide, to fashion, to think about those areas where we can make greater contributions. As part of the search process, I was sent a video, which some of you contributed to, which was what staff think about the institution, think about the Institute in terms of its qualities and what they want from a president. And it was a remarkable video, not only because the campus is so beautiful and it wasn't covered by 3 feet of snow, but for the sense that came through, a palpable sense of contributing to a greater mission, of a sense of care for the Institute as a whole, not everybody's individual area of responsibility, but belonging to a bigger institution, that your contribution made a difference in an important way. A sense of urgency about why this was important, and fundamentally a desire to come to work each and every day to get these done. And I must say, the feeling from that video gives one real confidence that this is the place to be, that there are great things to be able to do, and that the excitement that Kathy and I have of joining this community, both for the short form and for the long form, is really resonant. And I look forward to that, being someone deeply involved in quantum mechanics. As Fiona said, I suppose I'll figure out how to be in 2 places at once over the next year. And after that, to hit the ground running and to work with you to make Caltech an even greater place. Thank you very much.
Well, that concludes the session for now, and thank you for coming, and we're all very excited. So please feel free to come up to Tom and Kathy and offer your individual congratulations and remarks and so on, okay? Thank you for coming.